presentation here?
Yes, we can see it, so we're good to go.
Okay, perfect. So basically, I will make maybe not a very conventional presentation on how I see AI influencing our business, fintech, insurtech, finance world in general, and probably a lot of other startups we know. So the three things I will talk today quickly is before we have the fireside chat. And before I start, I would like to say that I'm very honored to be today as a guest to present and to be part of the fireside chat with you, Dimitri, and with this great organization. And it's a great honor. I thought I should say this at the beginning before I forget at the end, but it's a great honor. So let me talk about the three things that kind of interest me. Tech trends, challenges, opportunities. The second part, a little bit about game changers in technology. And the third part is like a summary why AI will change the rules of finance. If we look at this chart, it shows it's by McKinsey. It shows that most people, if you ask regular people, not only people that are in our business, about technology and the impact it will have on their lives, most of them, as you can see with these blue bars, is a very positive feeling about technology and how it will improve our lives, which is a good thing because, I mean, most of our listeners, or maybe all of us, are somehow involved in the technology space. So basically, we built something together as a team, as those great entrepreneurs and the people who work behind the scenes that people want, not only as a gadget, but also because they believe a lot of the things we develop will improve our lives. So better banking services, better healthcare, job security, etc. So this is a great base to work on, I believe. Of course, we're not going to go into COVID because we're all kind of COVID tired and COVID experts, but it had some positive effects by basically, this was a shocking effect, but I hope that's the last time we see this, or let's hope so. But it had a positive effect because people still spend money on innovation. They spend money on AI, machine learning, investors, and we accelerated certain processes that basically before we thought we have time to do. I mean, people can work from home now. I mean, with all the negative of working from home, of missing your co-workers. But nevertheless, even big incumbents, big corporations, all of a sudden adapt to this new demand for technology in order to make this happen, in order to keep operating. And of course, we have like now this video call. I mean, this was kind of positive, but with every positive effect, it also has some negative impacts on our lives. But it accelerated. Even grandparents use more technology now in order to talk to their grandchildren, which they could not see. And then in China, you had this autonomous cars. I'm not a big believer in autonomous cars, that they will come quickly on level 5, where there's no impact, no interference by people. But people become innovative. Basically, you have these autonomous cars who drive on specific roads with specific rules, who pick up things or deliver things. And I think this accelerated through COVID. And this is just a beginning. It's, in the futuristic movies in the past, we had a lot of great ideas, but they're now, with technology we have at hand and the willingness to adapt to these difficult times, we are much more open to think of things like this. This is a pizza commercial. And you say, my God, why is Spiros showing here a pizza commercial? And the thing is, I took off the sound because Domino figured out with a company, AI company, a way of improving quality. of a pizza, so the pizza always looks the same, and the time it takes, etc. Through AI, this machine. And why I mention this, I mean, there's so many great applications with AI, but it was developed originally to improve the pizza quality, the time, etc., and the look. So whatever you ordered, it looked exactly the same when you got it home. But with COVID, what happened is people realized they can also control social distancing, and they control the health of the restaurant. I mean, how clean is it? How do workers behave within this restaurant? So not only you got a good pizza, you basically you go to a you go to this place, and you also got the feeling that they listen to all the rules which come with protecting us against COVID. So AI can shift from one solution to another. You know, it's not so far fetched. So, but the knife can cut both ways. You know, and technology can cut both ways. You know, people, when we talk about artificial intelligence on a macro level, people are also afraid of unemployment. And I believe strongly, and I hope I'm wrong, that if we don't reskill people, and we can't reskill everyone, but we should try at least, people will fear that they might be unemployed if AI solutions are implemented. But that doesn't have to be the case. As I said, we can reskill people. We have to address it. I think when you talk to people and you want to implement AI in a big organization, in a startup, it's, you know, it's not everyone is needed when you were small, and so AI is not a threat to their jobs. But in big organization, it might feel like a threat. But if you address it and you say that, you know, like Excel, the Excel we use, I mean, it didn't reduce accountants. It did augmented our skill set, because, you know, some things we don't have to do anymore. So we can focus on other things. But it's something that people have in their back of their mind. And also it will stop the implementation of some solution, because there's a passive reluctancy of adapting to this technology. When you look at this Boston dynamic, of course, this was rehearsed many times to make it this perfect. But they always come out with this nice, cool videos, and they do things that, you know, I used to be able to do some of it, but very few things. And but when you see these things, you feel like, oh my God, robotics are coming. AI is very bad for us. It doesn't have to be, but you know, it scares definitely some people that think, you know, they improve their skill set continuously. Then we have to address big data. Big data, you know, obviously Europe is very good at that. You know, GDPR, protecting the, you know, the data of the corporate users, etc. But it is a lot of information. Not all the data is useful for most people, for most organizations, but nevertheless, a lot of data is collected, a lot of information is collected, and also that has to be addressed. This cut both ways. You know, how much do we regulate it, and how much do we let the innovations continue? Because you know, it's like we can't regulate everything, because if we regulate everything, then we won't see much innovation happening. I mean, of course, privacy, same thing, you know, with AI, machine learning, deep learning, surveillance, it's an issue, you know, and has to be addressed. I think that, some countries address it more and restrict it, some less, but nevertheless, these are all things that they are actually much more successful at surveillance now through AI, but you know, as I said, it cuts both ways. Cybersecurity is the biggest issue we have, because we all want to be connected. We all want convenience. Convenience comes with, you know, opening up to certain threats, and we are so connected. Like autonomous cars, of course, they try, of course, to find ways to be as much connected with the outside world in order to protect the driver for autonomous cars. But you know, it's an issue for companies, startups that will get hacked it might destroy a startup. An incumbent will survive because they have more money, but this threat is real, and it's just going to get worse. It's like one of the startups I'm working with, Mediastalker. It's a Greek startup. They're probably one of the leader in instant detection of illegal intellectual property, like live events, Champions League, etc. We always think that it's a fight that never ends. So you always have to become better than your opponent. So, but this is probably the biggest threat we all have.
Imagine.
Now I want to show you a very cool, it's not the newest one, but I think it brings things to the point. See what Zuckerberg says.
Imagine this for a second. One man with total control of billions of people's stolen data, all their secrets, their lives, their futures. I owe it all to Spectre. Spectre showed me that whoever controls the data controls the future.
But this was all fake. It's called deepfake, and this is an older one. It takes time to produce, but this is, of course, I hope a lot of you people who watch now heard of it. This is obviously something that very hard to fight. It's getting better all the time, deepfake. And what it can do is, it can manipulate election, it can manipulate stock markets, it can manipulate opinions. And it looks so real. I mean, Zuckerberg spoke about something that Spectre, the James Bond villain, he didn't say it, but, but they can make it so it feels and looks so real. One case was somebody pretended to be the CEO of a company when he called the UK, and it told him transfer 20 grand. And the UK subsidiary transferred 20K because it was the voice. It sounded like the boss from the headquarters in Germany. So he transferred the money, but it's just small things. Look at this one.
1 second.
Hey guys.
I Elon Musk.
Yes. Looks like I got into the wrong conference in Zoom. How are you doing, guys?
Good. How are you? Good.
I'm nice.
This
Thank
is
you.
amazing.
Nice hair color, by the way.
Thank you. It's Elon.
Well, then have a nice day. Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye. Bye. Have a nice day.
Why I showed you this is this was in real time. Of course, Elon Musk was not the perfect, but in terms of deep fake and the voice, but you will see things in real time, and then it's getting scary, because if it's in real time and you think that your boss is calling or somebody's calling very important, and the text can be adapted, what he says to real time, that's somehow cool, but also scary. Now, if we look at we talked about some trends I see which interest me. The technology game changers. Game changers. What is a game changer? This was a game changer. People might still remember, at that time it was a game changer. It changed the music industry. It changed how we listen to songs, how many songs we can have on this beautiful iPod. Then the same company, I'm not pushing Apple here, but they had 2-3 great successes, I must say, that changed a lot of things. Look at the iPhone. I mean, I don't have to say much about this, but that's also a game changer that forced the whole phone industry to adopt the feel and look of the iPhone. And if the last thing, look at this one. When you see this quality, which was even, I think, it was done with a professional director, but with an iPhone, that also changes how people take pictures or make videos. That's also game changers, which, for the industry, if you're in the video industry, you think, my God, will people buy cameras? That will disrupt. I mean, people still buy cameras, but a lot of professionals also use their iPhones or their Android phone. Those are game changers which have a huge impact on an industry. Look at augmented reality. Basically, your credit card. This is a concept, but something that will happen. You know, it wouldn't be nice if your glasses would allow to, you know, so you see what you spend, you know, what you did spend, how much money you have. You don't have to log on your computer. It's just all the information is very close here. Very cool, you know, mixed reality. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in that space that will enhance people's skills and capabilities. You talk to your financial advisor, to somebody, and you will have information at hand to say, okay, you know, like you're like a super brain human, because, you know, through your glasses, which will not even look like special glasses, you will have these capabilities. Or with 5G, you know, you will one application which is kind of cool is, of course, the possibility to do remote surgery. I find this very cool. You know, imagine a doctor, which they already experimented heart surgery in India, 20 kilometers apart. You know, that's quite cool. What's possible with 5G, with AI, with robotics, you know. So let's, you know, to have some time still, let's, if we talk about artificial intelligence, most people will go a little faster here. Artificial intelligence is the ultimate game changer. You know, I think there's no company that can deal with, can work without it. If you look at global United States, most executives believe in the States that they cannot grow without use of AI. And 71% of the American executives believe even they might go out of business if they don't use AI and can scale it. And a big percentage of them also know how to pilot, but it's hard for them to scale. I won't go deep into Europe. We have similar numbers, a little bit more. The only interesting part is China. I won't go over first. They all believe you need AI, but they don't think they're going out of business because AI is so much more ingrained in China's economy. So basically, they're much more comfortable with it. And the same thing here, the numbers are much lower, 52% compared to 76%. They have so many pilots which they scale. So they feel much more comfortable. That only shows how China is much more comfortable, much more innovative and aggressive of deploying AI to succeed. Global spending, I mean, the numbers, you find 130 billion, but let's put this number for IDC, 98 billion. So basically what that says is if you don't spend on AI, as a small startup, as a big company, your competitor will. And if your competitor spends that kind of money, I mean, portion of it, on AI, he will have a competitive edge sooner or later. Look at the Spotify. I'm not going to talk much, but I mean, the recommendation engine that knows almost better than we do what we like. You know, would not be possible without AI, you know. And look at this. You know, it's an Amazon shop. Probably you know. People don't know. You don't have to pay with cash. You just walk out, and basically with Internet of Things, AI, etc., it allows you to go shopping in the supermarket without taking out your wallet, which is a nice thing. Of course, there were laws against it now, where basically even Amazon has to put a cashier machine, and somebody has to be able to pay with cash, because otherwise it would exclude some people. New York has the same laws. But this, I mean, of course, revolutionizes supermarket shopping, and Amazon is not the only one. There are other companies that basically changes the business model of supermarkets. These small examples, I mean, there's so numerous examples, but the most key thing you have to understand is that AI creates new business models, you know, of things you thought cannot be innovated. And AI shows you that, and in combination with big data, in combination with other technology tools, you can change the business. Now, we are at the last part of our presentation. And I show you something unusual. Oh my God, Spiros, why is he showing now a watch? Hamilton, when Hamilton came in the 70s, it scared the Swiss watch industry. And it went almost under because of Hamilton, because of all the digital cheap watches. And why I'm showing this, it took much longer to get where we are now. It showed that there's still mechanical watches. That means you have to choose your fight. If you can't fight technology, you have to fight with quality. Customer experience, customer support, and other things that associate with quality. And I think why I show you this the most expensive watch, I think over $40 million, it just shows you that there's space for people in the tech space, and there's space for people who maybe not as a mass, but you can survive if you provide quality. I mean, the Apple Watch outsells all Swiss watches, and you see you can't stop it. You can't stop technology advancing. Same with fintech. You can't stop the advancement that startups and incumbents and tech giants push. It started with this very simple watch you saw before, Hamilton, and we're there. I mean, this is not nothing. I mean, this is, I think, in a few years, you're not going to have your watch do all this stuff. You're not going to be interested in this. But it just shows you it won't take that long, that changes will happen if we want it or not. It's best if we try to adapt. And look at this, chatbots, for people to know, basically, you call and you don't have a human on the other line, and it does answer the basic questions, and they're getting better and better. And if the chatbot fails because it knows it doesn't get you any further, human being jumps in. Now, look at this. Why this is very cool is a Samsung Neon, it's called. They're not real people. So if we go to this, and this is, it's getting better and better. Basically, there will be a person on the other side that will answer more questions as a chatbot, will look like a human, and probably also has to identify himself or herself as not being a human, an avatar, but it looks so real. So that will also change the financial industry to support, because people like to talk to people, or at least feel like they have somebody. Or look at the retirement homes. Those older people, they don't mind sometimes in some countries to talk to robotics, but at least they talk to someone. Now, when we talk about as a whole, as a summary, this Roger Federer, number one. Everyone wants to be known this, The bank wants to be the biggest bank, and the startups, the faster, better to be the star, the best in your business. But what we all forget, hopefully not, I don't, but I remind myself often, is to become the best in something, either as a startup, either as an incumbent, which lost its way. You have to start somewhere. Roger Federer here, small, a little bit later. And the whole process makes, if you're lucky, to be a champion. That's the only way to succeed. It means we're 2 slides away from finishing, but this means is you have, as a corporation or a startup, you have to start with implementing new technology, which basically you don't see the value yet. But in order to become a champion in your business, you have to start early, and you can't stop. You have some people, some big companies rather want to implement AI when everyone has it, when it's almost like electricity, when it's not anymore a competitive edge. It's much cooler and better for everyone to start and explore technologies early, and you grow with it, and then you have a competitive edge. And one slide I like to show a lot is this one. This is Fifth Avenue, horse carriages, 1912, I think. And this was a crazy guy with a car. All horse carriages. Few years later, time moved slower then. This was the only horse carriage, and all the cars, and it can happen fast. changes. So everyone should be paranoid, like Andy Grove said from Intel, the former chairman, because things will change. And if you're paranoid in a good way, you will adapt to new technologies faster. And, and you don't find that car a strange thing among horse carriages, but because this is the future, and eventually will be the opposite, the other way around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Spiros. It's an amazing presentation. You always come up with slides that amaze me, at least personally speaking. But I got jealous a little bit. So if I may, I will also share my screen for a quick message. All right.
I stopped sharing, so you should have the freedom now.
Okay. Let me see if I can do this. My screen. Does it show? I don't know.
Don't be discouraged.
Oh, don't worry about it. Maybe I will figure it out later. It's not so important anyway. So I wanna touch base on a few things that you covered, Spiros. First of all, unemployment, right? So this happened also when ATMs were first introduced. Everybody were freaking out from the banking community. The cashiers were like, "Oh my God, we're gonna lose our jobs. There's no space for us anymore." And what happened was actually the banking system grew because they could automate a lot of things, and they could spend more quality time at the branch, not just giving away money, but also selling a few other products like loans or bonds or stuff like that. So the same kind of discussion comes back even in 2021 with AI, as you very well mentioned. So I want to hear your thoughts specifically on banking. Do you see that actually going to happen with unemployment, as there's a lot of confusion and maybe concern from banking professionals now that fintech challenger banks are entering the space very aggressively?
I think for some of those bank employees, it will have consequences. I just saw a study about branches, how much a branch costs per people who visit it, because very few people visit the branches. I don't know in Greece specifically, but in most places, I think AI will have consequences for banking, but not for everyone. But yes, because they will try to save money, and people cost money. But if you upskill them, I think as I showed with the watches, there is a space for quality advice, and advice of giving a loan. We can do a lot of with algorithm, but I think there's a space for human interaction. And I'm not saying this; I strongly believe in that. And look at a good example. Again, Apple with the Apple Store. There were a lot of companies who tried the concept, but the Apple Store at the time figured out that you can sell technology, you can sell a lot of technology, and having those experts advising people in a good way. The same thing will happen, in banking, but you will need fewer people. I think just if we only had incumbents, I don't think we would have the same impact. But because we have also challenger banks, etc., competition will drive fees down, and something has to give.
Yep. And I could not resist to ask you about crypto, because we are seeing a huge bull run the last few months.
Yes.
And it's kind of funny because there were a lot of people that kind of forgot about cryptocurrency because of the first big crash on Bitcoin when it went from 20K back to 3K.
Yeah.
Dollars, and then they were, just happy to see it gone. Now it comes back more powerful than ever, and everybody started to look at it again. So what do you think, like, how it's gonna disrupt finance, and if it is a game changer, as you called it?
I think, yes, I didn't mention that in my presentation, but I should mention next time. I think it's a game changer, and more institutions will come into the space, are forced to. I mean, JP Morgan or Diamond, a Greek guy, excellent, one of the top bank managers, hated it, but now his analysts talk positive about it, and his customers want it. People are forced to. It's for young people, or for a lot of people, it's like gold. For hedge fund managers, it's just an investment. It's as good as bad as a lot of things, and it's very volatile. I mean, I will not bet my farm on crypto, but I believe crypto will go higher, and because so many people chase after it, they're forced to. And there's a danger, of course, that regulation comes in, but I think we might be already late for regulations. I mean, some regulation is good because they will hurt their own financial institutions. And the longer they wait, the more cryptos infiltrate, not only crypto, Ether, and all the possibilities you have with crypto. And crypto is a game changer, this decentralized system, and with the smart contract. There are a lot of possibilities. I think when you talk about blockchain, I think at this point, the only real success story we have is crypto, as which has a mainstream appeal and usefulness. But of course, there's a lot of speculation behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's volatile now, but sometimes I believe it's volatile so people can jump in, big institutions, selling it with, like it happened with the rumors we had last weekend, and also Turkey now. It doesn't make a difference if they stop it, because basically, not against Turkey, but look at Venezuela. If people want to buy crypto, they will be able to anyway.
Yep. Do you see, governments issuing their own cryptocurrencies, like China has announced already? And will this be the next arm race for global players?
Yes, but I mean, as far as I know, I think, money is already digital for me. So if they have a digital Swiss franc, digital dollar, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is my credit card. It goes from one place to another. It will happen, but they're not going to stop crypto because crypto still gives you a little bit more privacy. It's decentralized, and the other thing is centralized. But it's a good thing. I mean, without crypto, they would never have thought of doing it that fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not here pushing for crypto, but I'm just saying it's this revolution that forced people, like COVID, forced people to adapt to technology. Bitcoin or Facebook with its I forgot the name right now. Forced the central banks to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's space for both.
Yeah.
And with government currency, I don't know if we can control inflation, because governments want inflation, because inflation is something that can reduce their debt.
Yep.
And crypto is against inflation per se.
All right, so we have our first question from the audience, from Panayotis Filianos. So I'll just
Shoot.
Ask it there. Hey, Spiros, thanks for the great presentation. Fullbrain is a social e-learning platform where students learn and succeed together, based in Copenhagen. We are strong believers in the disruption that crypto and smart contracts can provide in ed tech. What are your views on that?
I think, we've seen the impact of AI on ed tech, but I haven't thought about this yet. But ed tech is I always consider it part of fintech as well. Everything, it's a great space to be. But I don't have an answer for this, I'm afraid.
So, okay, so since we are moving into the funding discussion, and this is the main theme for Startup Grind events this month across the globe,
Yes.
funding, it's something that a lot of founders are looking for at the moment, as you probably know.
Yes.
So tell me more about what the usual kind of question, but it's best to hear it from you as well, as you are exposed to a much
Yeah.
broader scope. What do investors look for successful startups before they can invest?
In my case, I usually look for traction. That means, do they have customers? Because when they have customers, whatever I said before, that's my specialty more. I look for companies that have customers. They already showed me that their customers believe in their solution. One thing. Second, that they can sell the team and they can build something. And I think it's very, very important. I mean, it's this chicken and egg, but if you can gain customers, that gives investors a lot of confidence. Look at the Clubhouse valuation of 4 billion because they want to become more of a fintech. But I mean, the whole campaign, the huge customer base, all these things just encourages investors to be part of this. As an example, if the valuation is justified, that's only when the check is in the bank. Then maybe it's still not justified. But I think it's very hard for startups when they start and they have nothing. They have just an idea. I think there are angel investors who still invest in this. But it might be nice if you put some things together, like customers and technology and a great team. I was always impressed by you, Dimitri. I have to say it. How you did Revolut in Greece with few resources. That's very cool. I mean, those things impress people a lot because you see a lot of people have a lot of money and they spend the money, and at the end they have nothing to show. It's so I find that was very impressive. A lot of things you do. I love to talk to you about those things, but it's probably harder. Something we have to also be fair is you see a lot of money going into the space, but it's going more into bigger players because the risks are lower for those institutions. Either they're already invested in those startups, semi-unicorns, unicorns, or they feel like the exit is near. I think that's something that's something, but that should not discourage a startup because everyone started some small in a small way,
Yeah.
I think if you have fire in you and you do and you can survive. The longer you survive, the more likely you will succeed.
That's true. So you are now a senior advisor to a number of startups, right? And I get that question a lot. So what does a startup advisor actually do? What value does he or she bring to the table, to the startup?
I think that depends on the expertise of the advisor. For instance, Mediastalker in the AI, I'm also advising on the strategy, but at the end of the day, the CEO does and the people do. I think a good advisor brings his experience in. He brings the sounding board, basically also saying things that people don't like.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I see, probably you see it too, Dimitri, is you're in a space, you work very hard, but you don't see not even what your competition is doing. It's just too much focused. And some things, when they do a new strategy, basically you say, look, this failed. Why shouldn't we fail with this? And of course, in my case, I bring a brand enhancement, obviously, through my huge audience. But it's a mixture of things. But I think independence and experience helps. And being with several startups, you're not involved with every startup the same. that helps. You've seen things that work or don't work. I mean, we can be fooled, and what I mean is we can be wrong with our assumption and with our judgment, but the startup has to prove this. But sometimes it's good to be naive. I see some startups that's naive. It's nice because they do crazy things and all this.
Yes, exactly. You have to be a little bit crazy, right?
I don't want
to be an entrepreneur.
But there's a very big German fintech challenger bank that basically started with just a debit card and not even a good back end. But they made a brand and they improved on their weaknesses. So, it's good to be crazy. But what happens is when they get bigger, they will need more experienced people coming in. Google did it. Everyone does it. You need both. But at the beginning, maybe it's good to be crazy. I think it is actually good. It's good when I see those naive kids and they tell me about things. I think, my God, you have no fucking clue sometimes. But they have a heart. They are passionate, and all of a sudden they say, "Hey, wow, maybe it's good."
Is passion more important than experience for founders, you think?
Yes, probably, but they should get experience quickly in as well. But I think because passion, you work much crazier. You work 9 to 5. You work like crazy. It's and when somebody passionate talks to you, also to an investor, that's magic. They think, my God, when you're very passionate about things, the investor might not see your business model, but he thinks, my God, if this guy is so crazy about it, maybe it's something I don't see, but he sees.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? You must have seen this.
Oh yeah, definitely. And do you see like valuations? We touched about that, and valuations go crazy. And do you think that we are now in a bubble? We get that question a lot, especially with the recent funding rounds that we keep seeing. It's completely crazy. Do you think that this is a bubble or not?
I'm into unicorns, so I don't know how I can answer this. I think, to be fair, for some, this valuation is too big. Think about Tesla. Nothing against Tesla, but the guy, what he did for the industry. I always like to give other examples. But at one point, it was valued more than all cars, Toyota, everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. Sometimes there's exuberance. It's like love, you fall in love with somebody and you go crazy, and then it goes in a good way. And I think there's no magic bullet to valuation. It's like sometimes it's too high, but eventually will crack to the level it should be. So sometimes if it's too high, good for you. But to be fair, sometimes another good example, very quickly. Jack Dorsey. He did Twitter, and then he did Square. Square is this payment company. I thought at the time, my God, they can't do this both. But he proved us wrong. So life is about people who prove us wrong in a good way. Not, and but valuations, I think nobody has really a clue what's the right valuation, and especially with a startup. And they say also when you make profits, it's a bad thing because all of a sudden you can value a company. So it's this charismatic guy who pushes and shows you a future that you want to be part of it. And maybe it's musical chairs. That could also be where people say, "Hey, we know it's crazy valuation, but thank God we're going to get out earlier."
And do you think that it's also about FOMO for investors, that they are, like they want to invest because somebody else will invest and they will lose the opportunity? Is that actually a thing that you see in Europe going on at the moment?
Yeah, but then I think we only see that with more established players. I don't think you get this feeling when you have a little startup. Not as much, but with big players, yes. And they say, "Oh, somebody else pays this amount of money." There must be something I don't see. It's just musical chairs.
Yeah. I totally agree, and I love your example with Clubhouse, and I see them moving into payments now.
Yes.
And you mentioned also that they are going to be a fintech company. So do you think that at some stage in the near future, all companies with a large audience will be eventually a fintech company?
Absolutely. It's this embedded finance. You know,
Yes.
you have an audience, and they do something like Tesla does insurance, insurtech. Walmart has a huge. Walmart, the biggest retailer, has a huge buying audience of their product. Of course, it's at the end of the day, it's if you have an audience and you sell something, you will be a fintech company. You know. And because at the end of the day, banks, etc., might become dumb pipes. What that means is they will do the service, but you don't care. I mean, do I care what technology is behind the ATM machine? No, we don't care. If I buy something to eat, I don't. I mean, if I buy chewing gum, I don't even know who produced it. I just buy it and enjoy it. And I think banks will have a huge problem. And it will, I always say this, it will be the weaker banks that will survive, because the weakest banks will jump on this bandwagon of dumb pipe, basically doing all the work, but not be present as being the person who does the work. And the established banks will do this the last, because they think we don't need this. But I don't see a bank selling a lot of products, but I see any other company selling a lot of financial products.
Yes, definitely.
Embedded finance.
Embedded finance. I believe in that term as well, and we have seen this in spaces like Southeast Asia with the rise of super apps.
Yes.
I mean, look at Grab, the crazy valuation that they reached. They are going into a SPAC for billions and billions of dollars. They all started with like a wallet. Then they started adding taxi, laundry, you name it. You can manage your whole life with that app. So why don't we have a super app like that in Europe?
Maybe, it's a cultural thing. I think. I don't think maybe we're not there yet. I think the Chinese they grew much. For them, they grew with this. No, they grew like it's like the frog, the water getting warmer. You don't realize it.
Yeah.
For us, it's like if we jump in, it's hot. I think. I also believe strongly that it's hard for Chinese companies to succeed in America, in fintech space, or in Europe, because the cultural thing, as difficult it is for us to succeed in China. That's why you see Tencent, etc., buying in other challenger banks and companies, because basically you want to have control. But I think it's a cultural thing. You can't underestimate this. It's like, and maybe we'll see a super app, but regulatory, I don't know. Look at China, good example. China, I think, is the most innovative country when it comes to fintech. But now, with this regulation that they put on and taking check them out, etc., they believe they've learned enough to do it themselves. Innovation will not advance. So this innovation regulation, regulation is like the brake to innovation. Yes. I always tell people, when you have kids, you let them run and they fall and they hurt themselves, but then they become who we are. Bad experiences with couples makes us who we are. And if we stop this, that people fall, startups fall, people do crazy stuff, some even criminal things, which will stop, but it's just part of that crazy, like Wirecard was a scandal that, it always will happen. But we have to be careful with the regulation, because it will take away our competitive edge.
Yeah,
I think
it's true. And what about things in Greece? Like I know you are not living here, but I know very well that you follow the latest developments here in Greece.
Yes.
What do you think about the Greek fintech space or AI space, and is regulation killing innovation in this country?
Oh, I don't know that regarding regulation, but I think, well, I love our Greece. They're hungry, they're smart, extremely educated, and they're maybe in a sweet spot because the borders of Greece in the space we are meaningless. I think we can develop great companies out of Greece, tech firms, fintech, cybersecurity companies that will have a global appeal. And people are hungry enough, I think, because there are few alternatives. And I think to be hungry is very key. Look at Switzerland. If I tell my wife to change an insurance, she won't do it because we're too, well enough off. But it's not a good place for innovation because it's like, we don't need this. We have everything. And I think crisis like we have in Italy, Greece, it's perfect ground for innovation. Look at how Revolut, something you did, penetrated the Greek market and, opened it up the possibility that fintech companies exist.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Go.
Yeah, I think the Revolut story it was kind of fun because it really shook the banking system here in Greece and actually triggered a lot of innovation from the incumbents here in Greece. So you see now with 2 years later, amazing things are happening, amazing for Greece at least.
And I think we're still early because this borderless, we don't have borders. We can have innovations and clients everywhere. Like the great company Mediastalker.ai. I mean, we have in the cybersecurity space, we have an Israeli client, which is a big honor in our space, and we have Sweden, Brazil, and there are a lot of great companies, I think, in Greece that appeal to a global market, I think it's magical in some ways, It can be. We just have to be courageous, hardworking, and think big. Like Sweden is a small place, but they brought Spotify, they brought a lot of great companies out. We can do the same. It's like just because we're Greeks, everything is possible. And we should believe in that. And I think the government does a lot of good things in order to encourage a startup environment in Greece, as far as I know.
Yep, they launched Elevate Greece actually, which is a nice platform for startups to register. I'm honored to be one of the committee players. I don't know how to call it, αξιολογητές. So when the idea is that whenever there is an angel investor who wants to invest in this type of startups over there, they get a significant tax break up to 50%, for example, which is fantastic if you think about it. I don't know a lot of other countries that do that. So yes, we were kind of late to the party, but I think, when you think about it, they are actually doing a lot of things. I was not aware of that. I was completely on the opposite side, but then I heard Marco Veremi the other day on a Clubhouse talk with Stefan Lopoulou, our last speaker. So he was saying that actually most of the money that were invested in Greek startups was from the government, if you think about it. Look at Equity Fund 1 and 2 and all these venture capital firms. They are backed by the government. If you think about it, it's true.
Yes, and by the EU.
Yes, exactly. So it's sometimes we love to hate the state and how much red tape they put around entrepreneurship. But if we dig deeper, you will see a lot of funds going over to these startups with no equity, without any kind of return. They just give out the money as a grant. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, you see, but I think I'm not for or against this government, but I think they try very much to advance Greece, and technology is a very important element to advance Greece, and maybe it can liberate Greece and bring another, besides of tourism, maybe we can provide some great companies that can be global players.
Mhm.
Look at again Roger Federer. I mean, the Swiss guy dominated tennis for so long in a small country of 8 million people. Only shows us one example. You don't have to come from America or China to build something great. It can happen anywhere, and it really can, and it will. And where the limits is only ourselves.
I like that quote. So, which Greek startup do you think will be the first to reach unicorn status?
Oh, I don't know. Tell me. You tell me.
Well, there are a few, like 2 or 3, maybe candidates.
Which one?
I think Viva, which is in fintech.
Yes.
They have scaled amazingly the last couple of years.
No, I mean, Harris, his team and the guy, amazing. This guy, for me, is flying under the radar. I mean, outside of Greece, not business-wise, as a brand, but amazing execution, amazing numbers, amazing management. It's just amazing people.
Would you say that Harris is one of those crazy founders, as you called them earlier on our fireside chat?
I don't know. I shouldn't say that because he might not pick up his phone again.
No, in a good way, of course.
Oh, in a very good way. I mean, the guy built something really great. Hey, and the modest guy, and the guy speaks his mind. This we need more of these people. Or Sihima, Joseph Daskalakis. There are a lot of great people out there, great startups that amazing, and encourage others to think, hey, it's possible. But Viva is great. Stichima also great. And hopefully Mediastalker and hopefully other companies will get involved in Greece. I mean, I love Greece because the older you get, the more you want to give something back, and it's a great country to give something back.
Yep. Harris was actually our first ever speaker 6 years ago at Startup Grind Athens. When we launched, he was the one to come and speak to us. I still remember because he had his knee like σε γύψο, πώς να το πω.
Yes, in
cast,
in
right?
a cast. Very nice.
Yeah, and the guy was literally, he couldn't care less. He said, I have an event I have to show up. So it was very inspirational for me, at least. So.
No, and the guy there is amazing guy, amazing. And Viva still has a lot, still way to go. I mean, I think there might be already unicorn already, I think, or very close to it. Valuation.
Yeah, we will see very, very soon, I think. Okay, so I don't know if we have any more questions from the audience. Let's have a look because the time is flying really, really fast with you, Spiro.
Thanks. I had a long presentation, though I wanted it short. But
no, don't worry. It was great insight. So you also touched base on all these new business from AI and fintech. So and we have seen so many startups focusing on payments. What else could it be that could disrupt the space, the banking space in the next few years? What do you see coming in Europe, or maybe even in Greece, that we don't see, but we haven't seen it so far?
I don't know. I can talk about it now, but there are companies, services that basically like Glano, buy now, pay later. I think there's actually a company in Greece that wants to grow in that, called Melon Pay, and I think that's something which we haven't seen in Greece yet, but it will happen. So basically, you buy, pay later, and a nice way of doing this. It's a global phenomenon. It's not new, but it's much more prominent now. And I think it's less about technology. It's less about payment. Payment is just a very obvious thing, Payment is a big section of the fintech space. I think it's about customer experiences and beyond just what we have now. I think that will be the revolution. But that's not something for Greece, for everyone. So basically, not. I don't think we have seen innovation yet in the fintech space. I think what we've seen now is more things that the big banks should have done, startups do, because they don't have legacy, they don't have this old banking system behind them they're much more freer to innovate and to do new things. But I hope I can answer like this. I think it's like a restaurant. We go to a restaurant and there's a professional and that's us. We have both the same ingredients, but what we will cook will taste differently. And when I talk about ingredients, salt, pepper, etc., it's like AI, Internet of Things. At the end of the day, it's not anymore about AI, Internet of Things, big data. It's how this fintech or this company embeds it all and gives customers something that tastes so good that you want to talk about it. And I wouldn't focus on payment. I mean, of course, all these things are important because, we always will need payments. We always will need a loan. A lot of things will remain, but it's not about those channels. It's how we embed it, so to make something new. Look at the rest. Basically it buys the same things we buy, maybe a better quality, but it cooks it better. And maybe we have to look at the next fintech that cooks those ingredients a little better than we were used to.
Okay, so are you open to receive any more pitch decks, Spiros? Are you looking for investments, like investing in startups?
Yeah, unless if they have traction, if they have customers, yes. And otherwise, I can give an advice. I always like to help, but there's only so much time. But if they have customers, then yes, always, and if I can do my part, the better.
Amazing. All right, Spiros, I think that's about it, really, unless you have anything else to add.
Yes, ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ που με είχατε και που μπορούσα να είμαι στο Fantastic Show. It's a big honor. Άκουσα ο Χάρης ήταν ο πρώτος, εγώ τώρα, και είμαι πολύ περήφανος που μπορώ να είμαι εδώ και που είμαι I'm touched and περήφανος για την Ελλάδα και I think we haven't seen anything yet what Greece can produce in companies, in people, and and we all have to it's about community. We have to help each other. It's very key, I think that's the key of success.
Yeah, well, actually, Startup Grind has exactly this kind of values embedded in our community. Help others before helping yourselves. We are here to make friends, not just contacts, and give, not take. So you touched upon these values really, really nicely, and they blend in with Startup Grind globally. We operate in 600 different cities around the world. So
it's an amazing success story, if you think.
Yeah. It's all good, and thank you as well, Spiros. The honor was all ours, of course, to have you and share insights, amazing insights. Our next guest is also one of these crazy guys, Nikos Randakis, the founder of Beat.
Wow! Give my regards. I will be on the show to ask a question, but that's also a guy that heads up, cool guy.
Yes. Looking forward to host him again, not as the CEO of Bit anymore, but as the CEO of his next startup, which is going to be around biohacking.
Okay.
Yeah.
When will this be?
Next month in May. So if you,
I will definitely join and ask a question, and looking forward to hear his insights.
Perfect. Amazing. It would be great to have you and everyone else who might be interested. Thank you all for joining. That's all for tonight. Ευχαριστούμε όλους. Bye bye.
Bye bye.